My Lords, a near record amount of people are in employment. This has been driven by a fall in economic inactivity, now at its lowest rate since 2023. For people in work, real earnings have continued to grow. We want to continue this trajectory and achieve our long-term ambition of an 80% employment rate by reforming employment, health and skills support as set out in the Get Britain Working White Paper.
My Lords, 274,000 jobs have already vanished on this government's watch. And the OBR has already warned that the Employment Rights Bill will have an additional negative impact on levels of employment. So why is the government so stubbornly pursuing and continuing with this legislation, what can only be called the unemployment bill, when its own forecaster is saying that this bill will destroy jobs?
Well, I thank the noble Lord for his question, and I enjoy debating the issues around the government's flagship Employment Rights Bill during some fairly lengthy committee sessions with him, and given the debate that we had last night, I'm somewhat surprised maybe that he can return to this field. We discussed just yesterday evening how one of the main aspects of the Employment Rights Bill is to deliver our manifesto commitment to repeal the previous government's failed 2016 Trade Union Act. In that, let's just remind our noble Lordship's House, that Act delivered more strike days, 2.7 million days lost to strikes in 2023, up for 2.5 million days lost to strikes in 2024, the highest levels of striking days since 1989. That Act failed, my Lords, and that's why we're reforming it. But to pick up the noble Lord's point on our economic record, let's actually have a look at it. As I said, employment has risen by 500,000 since the general election, now at a record high. Economic inactivity is down by more than 20%. Earnings are up, vacancies down. My Lords, we have a plan for change, a plan to invest in Britain's renewal, and we're sticking to that plan.
My Lords, it was an absolute pleasure as an MP to visit schools, but it was really hard to be unaware of a growing despondency of young people, a real lack of hope for the future, particularly amongst those who weren't hopeful of a university place. Can my noble friend tell us what the government is going to do to help young people into fulfilling jobs and giving a real hope to them for a decent future?
Well, I thank my noble friend for that question, and of course she makes an essential point in terms of growing young people's aspiration and potential, as well as the future of our economy and the future of our country. I'm pleased to tell her that the government is supporting more young people into work through our new youth guarantee for all young people aged 18 to 21, including young people with health conditions, to ensure that they can access quality training opportunities, an apprenticeship or help to find work. This includes targeted support for young people with learning disabilities. And it's just worth reflecting, in the other place, we heard the Chancellor set out in the spending review, record investment into training and upskilling young people with £1.2 billion a year by the end of the spending review. And that's on top of a record £3 billion spent on the apprenticeships budgets for 25-26, the largest amount of spend on apprenticeships ever. My Lords, all I will say is that, unlike the previous government, we are not letting our young people down. They are our future. We have hope for them. They will deliver for us.
My Lords, can the noble Lord the Minister tell us what assessment has been made of the impact of artificial intelligence on the job market, and what measures are being taken to reskill the workforce?
I thank the noble Lord for his question. He, like me, will be waiting with bated breath the publication of the government's industrial strategy white paper, which will set out the government's approach to investing in 8 priority sectors, those sectors that are deemed most likely to drive UK economic growth. And it won't surprise the noble Lord, or indeed the noble Lordship's House, that digital and technologies, including artificial intelligence, will be one of those sectors right at the heart of the government's industrial strategy. As I've set out, we have a youth guarantee to deliver a record amount of spend for young people, making sure they can take the opportunities of AI will be at the heart of making that youth guarantee work.
My lords, and could the noble Lord the Minister
actually answer the question, which is about the assessment of jobs that will be available. He's talked about the various things that are in flow, but could he give some indication as how the government sees the various sectors of our society and what jobs are going to be needed? There is always a feeling that we're waiting for some report, but there is no assessment of which sectors are in need of employees and workforce. And I wonder if the Noble Lord the Minister can indicate which sectors of society are going to be looked at for future employment.
Well, I thank the Noble Lord for his question. I have to say, a great deal of it, I'm afraid, will be, to repeat myself, but will be delivered through the industrial strategy white paper. We are looking at the sectors that will lead to the future economic growth of this country. They are they are advanced manufacturing, clean energy industries, creative industries, digital and technologies, defence, financial services, life services, professional and business services, and as we heard from the Noble Lord, Lord Forsyth in answer to the previous question, financial services are going to be a key part of our economic growth. These are the areas that the jobs will come. It is our role as a government to make sure that everybody can access quality jobs in these economic sectors, and that's what we will do.
My Lords, the ONS data shows that job losses accelerated immediately after the government's national insurance increase took effect in April, with 109,000 payrolled employees lost in May, which is the biggest monthly drop since the pandemic. My Lords, I spent my whole working life trying to help people who'd lost their jobs get back into work, and the impact on them is truly devastating, and we shouldn't forget that for individuals. But for those who've lost their jobs, and competing in a rapidly shrinking jobs market with less vacancies, how will the government help them manage their period of inactivity in order that their mental health does not deteriorate to the point that they remain out of the labour market permanently and never ever achieve their destiny?
Well, I thank the Noble Lady for her question. She's right to identify the huge personal impact of long periods of economic activity and joblessness, as well as the obvious deleterious economic impact of that. I would say that the government's Get Britain Working white paper does set out a bold and comprehensive vision to tackle that activity and to build an inclusive labour market. As well as wanting to raise the UK employment rate to over 80%, it does want to modernise employment support. And we've just set out a number of trailblazers, including the first Pathfinder launched just last week in Wakefield, which is part of a commitment to create a new jobs and career service, which will shift the focus of the job centre system from box ticking to job finding. It's a sad fact, my lords, that only 9% of employers currently recruit through job centres. That's too few. It should become a recruit of choice, and our plan for the Get Britain Working white paper is designed to do that.
My Lords, I think it's possibly the Labour side. Does the Minister accept that, unfortunately, we have a very inefficient jobs market, and there are too many artificial barriers, requirements for work experience that prevent science graduates from entering industry, age discrimination, diplomas that are not relevant to the paper qualifications to the job, and also those who have criminal records, often from decades before, again being prevented from properly entering the workforce. This applies to both the public and the private sector. Isn't it time to sweep away these artificial barriers in order that people can get into work and look after themselves and also make a contribution to our economy and society?
Well, I thank my noble friend for his question. He's absolutely right. We need to do whatever we can to make sure that those barriers to work are torn down. And obviously, referring back to the Noble Lord Hunt-Will's question, make sure that we actually have a fair employment practices, and make sure that workplaces are fair and people get paid for a fair amount of work. I would just say we are taking, to my noble friend, we are taking steps to ensure that we ask people who face barriers to work what those barriers are. I'm very pleased to tell him, for instance, that we've just set up a youth advisory panel. These provide their expertise through their experience to ensure that the voices of young people, most of whom are not in education, employment or training, are central to the design and deployment of the new coherent work service.